What's something so commonly misunderstood that you need to clear up? You don't get taxed more just because you get a raise. This is the difference between your marginal and effective tax rates. Different portions of your income get taxed at different tax rates. So for a single person in 2020, your first $9,875 is taxed at 10%. From $9,875 to $40,125 is taxed at 12%. From $40,126 to $85,525 is taxed at 22%, and so on. This means that if you earn, say, $50,000 a year, the entire $50,000 isn't taxed at 22%. 22% is your marginal, highest tax rate. You cannot lose money by getting a raise in most cases. Reindeer are real animals. At least in Canada, the animal that Europeans call reindeer is called by its indigenous name, caribou. I was in my 20s before I learned that caribou and reindeer are the same animal. Betta fish cannot live in a cute tiny filterless unheated 0.5-gallon Betta tank. Yes, they sell them in those little cups. And yes, they market adorable and trendy special Betta tanks. Don't buy those. They're bad. You should have at least 5 gallons. 10 is better. A filter, a heater, and some decor for them to swim around, hide in, and don't get plastic plants. If it's rough enough to snag pantyhose, it's rough enough to snag your Betta's pretty fins. Likewise, goldfish are an intensive starting fish that needs a way bigger tank than you think, and they live longer than you think. Fish bowls are just fish torture chambers. Fish are friends, not decor. The apostrophe goes in front of a truncated decade or year, like 90s or 56, not 90s. You use the apostrophe the same way as always, by replacing the digits you don't need with it. And plural words do not need apostrophes, goddammit. You can like a fictional character and not condone their actions. They may be a piece of garbage, but it does not mean I will not wave my happy flag whenever they appear on screen. Morality in fiction is very different of morality in real life. Based on what my psychiatrist has told me and my own experience, people react to antidepressants in different ways. Or, in other words, you might have to try several different kinds of antidepressants until you find the right one. I was on a few different types of antidepressants and they all made me feel like a zombie. I hated it. Then I got on Zoloft and found that it really didn't affect me negatively at all. Apparently, if it works for you family, it also has a good chance of working for you. So if you have family on a medicine that is working, try that one first. My dad and uncles were on Zoloft and had no issues. Basically, if you don't like how you feel, don't give up. Ask to try a different brand. Blackjack dealers have no control over the order at which the cards come out. 99% of the time we want you to win unless you're an asshole. That headaches are in the brain. Brain in itself has no pain receptors, but it is the tension, swelling of the blood vessels in the brain and also the tightening of muscles in the neck and head that causes headaches. Low imbalance of serotonin levels can also lead to headache. Despite what you see in movies and TV, punching someone in the head, unless you really know what you are doing, can be much worse for the puncher than the person being punched. Think of the size of the skull versus the size of the bones in your fingers. I had a friend, an amateur boxer, did competition win a bar fight with one hook punch. However, even him, trained, broke multiple bones in his hand on the punch. The Greek word demon is enunciated exactly the same as the English word demon, even though they mean different things. So, all of you Linux admins, you aren't restarting daemons, you are restarting demons. Just because someone became a massage therapist, masseurs, does not mean they want to touch people all the time. My therapist was telling me how people seem to assume that her husband gets amazing massages all the time and she eats like a queen because he's a chef. In reality, they spend a lot of time sitting watching TV, eating takeaway, not touching each other because she's so overtouched from work and he's done cooking for the day. You're tired after Thanksgiving because of the tryptophan in the turkey. Turkey is a pretty regularly consumed meat. How many times have you been uncharacteristically tired after eating a turkey sandwich for lunch? It's not like this is the only time you're eating turkey. And lots of other foods have tryptophan. You're tired because you had a huge meal, often with wine or some other alcoholic beverage. You traveled, or you have been cooking and cleaning like a banshee to prepare for 15 people to come over. You're tired after arguing politics at the dinner table with all of your fuck-ass relatives. It's a very exhausting holiday. Blasters in the Star Wars universe do not fire lasers. They fire chunks of superheated plasma. It just glows, making it look like a laser but moves at the speed of a projectile rather than a laser beam. Organ transplantation can only occur in very specific ways. You have to suffer a devastating brain injury in a way that you don't die right away but are hooked up to life support machines. Only then, when the medical team treating you sees that your brain is not going to recover brain dead, is the permission given to discuss donation with your family, which in the end really approves the recovery. So people who don't want to put organ donor in their ID for fears that doctors won't try to save me, stop it. Wait, people legit think that doctors wouldn't try to save them if they have organ donor on their card. Jesus. I have the opposite mindset. Mine is, well, I'm not going to be using them. We have a hen. It lays eggs. We don't have a rooster, so we don't get chicks. We get just eggs. You need a rooster and a hen to get chicks. How has the educational system failed so abysmally? I'm a scuba diving instructor. The tank's cylinders are full of air, not pure oxygen. Oxygen is toxic to humans from about 6 meters deep. I load and unload the planes for a major airline at O'Hare. There isn't a dead body on every flight. I might see one once a month. Maybe at least one comes through once a day on flights I don't work. But there are thousands of flights daily. The vast majority aren't flying hearses. Genetic tests that tell you your family is Swedish or Ghanaian or Japanese or Ecuadorian are not based on some magical code which is locked in stone for each country. They are based on a database of genetic markers that are common to the geographical area in question. How that database is compiled and who provides their genetic material is relatively subjective based on the company collecting and using the data, so the results may be skewed. Don't necessarily take it as gospel. For night driving, don't wait until an oncoming vehicle is directly in your path to lower your high beams. Do it before the vehicle arrives so that you don't temporarily blind the driver. And turn your high beams down when you are behind another vehicle. In bra sizes, it's a myth that A is small, C is large, etc. Truth. A bra size is actually a ratio of band to cup size. This means that a 32C is 5 cup sizes smaller than a 42C. It means both 28F and 34A are made for busts of 35. It means many women are wearing bands that are too big for their ribcages with cups that are too small. And it means that most retailers only carry 4 sizes of bands, 32 to 38, and 4 or 5 sizes of cups, when in reality the full range of normalness is something like 26 to 50 AA. Therapy is great, but it can take a while to find the right one. If one of them just rubs you the wrong way, don't feel like you have to stick around and find another. When I try to keep it simple, the i7 in a laptop is not the same i7 in a desktop. They're different kind of i7s for laptop and desktop. Hell, even some i5s are better than i7s. From many action movies, if you hit someone hard enough that they pass out, at best you've given them a concussion, at worst you've just given them a deadly hemorrhage. If they're out for more than just a few seconds, it's extremely likely they're in grave mortal danger, and they're not just going to wake up in a few hours and just be mildly upset. Also, blocking the mouth of someone who's unconscious is going to kill a lot of people. Not everyone can breathe through their nose. They might have a cold. They might puke due to previously mentioned concussion. A mother bird will not reject its babies or eggs if you touch them. Unless you are a loser, then she might think her chicks are failures for hanging out with you. Some birds are obsessed with social status. The hobbits in Lord of the Rings weren't smoking marijuana, as the prelude in Fellowship of the Ring clearly states that pipeweed is tobacco. Cajun and Creole versions of Bayou cooking are not the same. The clothing that you see worn at fashion shows usually is not meant to be worn normally. Instead, it's more like a wearable art piece that is just meant for shows. Wikipedia is a credible source. Most of the time, when it's not, you can tell because it won't have sources listed. Teachers these days really hate on Wikipedia, but it's a useful site for quick information. TV and movies would have some believing that rendering a person unconscious isn't a big deal, as heroes peacefully disable the baddies. No, you've created potential brain trauma that not only put that person's life in jeopardy but will likely have lifelong side effects. Being an introvert doesn't imply being a shy person. Barrel roll. Pitching up and at the same time banking in a plane in full roll. It is so named because you can visualize the plane rolling around the inside of a barrel in a spiral. Done properly, you remain in positive G's force pushing you against the floor of the plane through the entire maneuver. He's the famous Bob Hoover pouring tea while doing a barrel roll. Aileron roll. The aircraft rolls roughly in place as if spinning on its axis. Unlike a barrel roll, the occupants will feel positive, sideways, and negative G's through the maneuver. Get it right, Peppy, you're a goddamned military officer. Czechoslovakia doesn't exist anymore. It's Czech Republic and Slovakia since the 1st of January 1993. Game developers are almost never the reason your favorite game has microtransactions. That fault usually falls on the publisher. Stella Liebeck didn't frivolously sue McDonald's just for hot coffee. The coffee caused third-degree burns. She originally just asked for McDonald's to cover medical expenses and lost wages. The $3 million settlement was the revenue of 2 days of coffee sales for McDonald's, and the judge cut it down significantly later on. Yep, and McDonald's did a really good job making it seem like the suit was frivolous. How petty does someone have to be to sue because coffee is hot? And dragging her name through the mud. In reality, her coffee was absolutely too hot for human consumption. It was common practice for McDonald's to heat their coffee way hotter than is safe for consumption so they could sell it for longer without making a fresh pot. For the non-squeamish, Google the images of the burns she suffered. They're super awful and she absolutely needed to sue them. Being smart, intelligent and being educated are two different things. In Harry Potter, you don't get your Hogwarts letter on your 11th birthday. It just so happens that Harry first opens his letter on his birthday, but all of the other kids get them around mid-July. In the first book, movie, it is sent a couple weeks before his birthday, but the Dursleys won't let him open it, so it's not even a book versus movie thing. I know it's not a big deal, but it just drives me crazy when people say how devastated they were when they didn't get a Hogwarts letter on their birthday unless their birthday is in mid-July. The MRI is always on. It's never safe to enter the room with anything that the field can affect, so you should never enter the room until you have permission to do so. Antisocial and asocial are not the same thing. Antisocial has for some reason taken the place of asocial. Antisocial is breaking rules and societal norms. Being asocial is isolating yourself from other people. Shaving doesn't make hair grow in thicker. It shears off the hair shaft, making it more noticeable than a tapered, natural hair. Every time is different from every time in this case. Every day is different from every day. People seem to be getting very confused these days when it comes to joining words together. Yes, I am blind. Yes, totally blind. No, not just blind without glasses. Full on, eternal darkness blind. And yes, blind people can use the internet. Fire sprinklers in normal buildings do not all open at once, completely soaking the whole place. Each sprinkler head has its own temperature-sensitive element. That head, and only that head, opens when the temperature is reached. No other heads will open unless they too reach the set temperature, usually around 165 F or 74 C. And fun fact that water is most likely full of mold and disgusting filth since it's just sitting in those pipes, potentially for years. If you're out of a spice, don't give up on a dish. Many spices can use others from the same family to create a similar taste, such as cloves and allspice and cinnamon. Unless that spice is literally the only major on in the dish, you should be able to swap. Etc. not etc. Leviosa, not Leviosa.